Hello and welcome. Another edition of our College Coaches Corner. Each and every week, take a few minutes. We talk to college coaches and we learn a little bit about all of the constant changes that are going on within the world of college athletics, particularly college baseball. I am happy to announce the return of former partner in crime, Coach Dave Serrano. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and I'm going to let you introduce our special guest today.
Walter, it's great to be back. It's always great to be on here. And again, as I always say, your platform is growing and you do a wonderful job for student athletes and families that are navigating the new landscapes of recruiting in college baseball. I want to introduce Travis Creel, formerly of Southern Miss, now the new head coach at Jacksonville State. Travis, congratulations on your promotion of getting this job. I was just down there this past weekend. Obviously, my son is part of your staff, and what a beautiful campus and a beautiful facility that you've taken over at Jacksonville State.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me. We're fortunate here. The facility's incredible. Administration really cares about athletics and baseball specifically. So I think we'll kind of blow some people's minds when they see how nice of a place we have, for sure.
You know, Travis, one of the things that I want to ask you about that's kind of really relevant in today's world is, and I'm going to start with, we're right up against August 1st. And in the years past, that used to be a really, a significant date for the rising high school junior. What does it mean now, or what's the impact of August 1st with the way recruiting has evolved over the last 2 years in particular? And how do you approach it with regard to the high school athlete and reaching out for the first time to initiate a dialogue with a student athlete?
Yeah, obviously we're in a little bit of a different situation right now because we've done so much in the portal this summer that our 2028 list probably isn't as long as we'd like it to be. But we'll be touching base with a lot of kids August 1st. Doesn't mean, if you don't get a call on August 1st, you're not getting an offer by any means. But yeah, certainly you get to start the relationships with the kids. In the old days, you could be talking to kids for years now. Obviously they'd had to call you, but just starting relationships, building that relationship. Obviously we can bring kids on visits in September. But yeah, it's a big day, but it's not the end all be all for the kids out there.
Travis, you've had a history of being a great assistant coach. You hitting is your background, and now you get to put your stamp on something as a head coach at Jacksonville State. What are going to be some pillars as the head coach now that you'd like to see your program and the type of players you want to bring into your program to build something special down there?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to my Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech days of to win at this level, you better be tough. So toughness is key, but also I want just good humans and good people in the building. I thought, I got some good advice from a mentor of mine when I'm doing the hiring process, to be sure you hire the right people, not necessarily the best resumes, but the right humans and get the right players in the building as well. From a recruiting standpoint, we want to recruit that overlooked high school kid, kind of like we did at Southern Miss, where we want to be high school heavy. Obviously, this is a unique summer for us where we had to fill a roster, but we want to recruit the high school kid. We want to get them in our system. We want to develop them. We want to create relationships with them. I just think the high school kid, it's easier to retain if it's a real relationship. And also they just love, you can get them to love the university and take pride in the university. And yeah, it's going to be our model. We want to go high school heavy, get them in the building early, let them play early, and develop them and retain them. That's the goal.
Travis, your years with regard to JUCO and then obviously as a recruiting coordinator at a school such as Southern Miss, I really would love for you to talk about, let's talk to the 15 to 16-year-old high school student athlete. They're trying to prepare, they have dreams and aspirations to play at the collegiate level. What are some tips that you would provide to those student athletes in order to best prepare for what awaits them at the collegiate level, both as a position player, as a pitcher? Just how can they be better prepared once their feet hit campus as a college freshman?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's two things. One, the weight room, right? I mean, I think that the biggest kicker, the biggest difference from that top tier kid at 13, 14, and the kid that's not quite great yet is strength. So those kids that get stronger are obviously, it's easier to evaluate because you can see the speed, you can see the power. So I think the weight room is vital, especially once you hit that freshman, sophomore year in high school with that. And excuse me. Yeah, and also just the way you play the game. Like that's one thing that, I think probably gets a little overlooked in today's travel ball era. We're watching how you play the game, how hard you play the game, your times down the line, how you hit the field running, how engaged you are vocally, and how locked in you are with that. So we want winners. We want guys who know how to play winning baseball. So yeah, that'd probably be the two biggest tips is get in the weight room and play the game the right way.
Travis, I'm going to give you the podium, so to speak, for the next couple minutes. I want you to talk about, like you're talking to recruit. I've already brought up your facilities. I thought I saw SEC type facilities this past weekend when I was down there. Great place to develop. Why don't you talk to the student athlete? What should intrigue kids about coming to Jacksonville State and the things that you and your coaching staff will be able to do for them, the community will be able to do for them, the university and the facilities and the amenities the players get to share?
Yeah, from a development standpoint, we have absolutely everything you could possibly need from a technology standpoint, from a facility standpoint. So certainly have that. But our main selling point is the relationships we're going to have. I think in today's world that gets lost at times, where and some coaches are you're chasing the next contract, you're chasing the next job, and things like that. Well, we're in it for the people, man. I hired really good humans that are in it for the right reasons. If you're in this profession to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong profession, because there's very, very few people who make life-changing money in this profession. So I've always done it for the people. I've always done it from the relationships. We're going to do it the right way. I've been very fortunate to, I've worked under 3 bosses at the Division I level, Lane Burroughs, Scott Berry, and Christian Ostrander, who have really shown me that you can have success and you can win a bunch of games, but you can also do it the right way and treat people the right way. Because at the end of the day, that's what this life's about, is how you treat people.
Travis, one of the things that I want to ask you specifically about, and Southern Miss over the last several years has been arguably, they've been a super regional host. They've hosted regionals, and people still refer to them as a mid-major. Do you feel like the days of the mid-major are going to start, those lines are going to get blurred because the talent is going to spread itself out? Or do you think that it's going to continue to kind of still be a centric P4 kind of centric as far as recruiting, and then everybody else kind of deals with the portal and the high school athlete? How do you kind of see the landscape of college baseball kind of moving forward in today's world of 5-5 and all of the changes that are coming into the NCAA?
Yeah, I do think you can certainly see some better high school players go in the quote mid-major route, right? I mean, you get 5 years now. The roster is going to be down to a true 34 very soon, which it means one thing: the recruiting classes are going to get smaller. There's just no other option. There's no way around it. So, I think that the high school, recruit that we can get will probably improve better than it was, 4 or 5 years ago, certainly. And that's good for us, because that's going to be our model. We want the high school kid, like I said earlier, just kind of that overlooked, hard-nosed, tough player that we can get in our program early and develop them. So, yeah, I do think, though, the recruiting classes have to get smaller. There's just no way around it, because everyone will be at a true 34 in the next 4 years with 5 years of eligibility. So, the high school kid could certainly be more fall through the cracks for sure.
Speaking of that, as you move forward, I know this year, because of the change of the coaching staff, and I know putting the roster together, a lot of transfers. You went a lot through the portal. How do you see Jacksonville State moving forward? Do you see it using the portal a lot, using more JC guys, high school guys, and do you see yourself going nationwide, or are you going to stay more regionalized?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to do what we just did ever again. I can promise you that. I think we've brought in 22 guys, either portal or late JUCO ads. So, from a recruiting standpoint, certainly we want to do high school and junior college. We're in a great region where you can get to Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida in a pretty quick amount of time. So certainly want to do the high school route. Certainly want to do the junior college route. I think you can get a little bit more nationally when it comes to the junior college and the portal kids. High school kids probably not necessary. But yeah, we've got a couple kids from California. We've got a couple kids from Colorado coming in. So, but yeah, in the future, it's certainly going to be high school, junior college heavy. And the portal will kind of fill our needs. It's kind of how we did things at Southern Miss, where if you lose a kid in the draft that you weren't expecting or things like that, that's when you dip into the portal and maybe get 2 to 4 kids in the portal each summer. That's certainly the plan.
Travis, can you talk a little bit about, I know you haven't had any camps yet at Jack State, but what role will camps play not only at Jack State, but with regard to college baseball? Because now more than ever, coaches want to develop a relationship, a rapport. They want the athletes and obviously the families to see the campus. Talk a little bit about the roles that camps will play for the high school athlete with regard to recruiting and why it's an important part of their recruiting process.
Yeah, I think camps are extremely important for a couple reasons. One, you can get face to face with the kid, kind of feel him out. You can meet the families. You can they can see the facilities maybe before they're allowed to come on a visit and things like that. I think camps kind of get a bad name as a money grab, and certainly schools make money on camps, but I do think it's important to move the kids around, do different drills, do different things that you want to see them do. But more importantly than anything to me is actually meeting the kid and looking him in the eye and shaking his hand and kind of seeing what kind of human we're dealing with.
Walter, a funny story. First time I talked to Travis, he reminded me that I was the head coach at Cal State Fullerton when he was playing at Southern Miss. And I believe it was 2009, right, Travis?
Yes, sir.
2009, we went in there for a weekend series, and we were the 27 Yankees that weekend. We were a good team, but we played as good as any team that I've been a part of in a weekend series in a hostile environment, a great environment. But Travis, that leads me to this question. You've been around some great coaches, mentors. Who are some guys that you lean on and some guys that have really put you in this position today at a young age, getting to run a great program? Who are some mentors and coaches that have put you in this position?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate with that. I've worked under some great head coaches. I worked with some great assistants. I played under the legendary Corky Palmer, played under Scott Berry. Lane Burroughs is a really big mentor of mine. Christian Ostrander, obviously the head coach at Southern Miss. A really dear friend, but someone who I worked a year with and learned so much is Mike Silva, the head coach at Arkansas State. He's definitely helped me in this process of taking over a program. But probably the best mentor for me, and besides my own family, would be Scott Berry. Just when I've never met a person who can say a bad word about him. A great baseball mind, a great program builder, but way more important than that, he's just the best human ever. If you can, leave a legacy like Scott Berry did in Hattiesburg, that guy could run for mayor and he would win in a landslide. He's just the best. And but yeah, I've been fortunate. I've worked around some really, really good people, and have a lot of guys I can call and lean on for sure.
Travis, when I'm talking with a lot of parents and they're kind of looking at college athletics, they always want to ask about, has recruiting for high school athletes, younger athletes, kind of been pushed back, meaning what used to take place maybe aggressively sophomore, junior year is now taking place in the senior year, and particularly even into the senior spring for a high school athlete in some cases. Talk a little bit about, roster spots kind of become available towards the latter half of the spring, obviously in the first week in June, but recruiting now for a high school athlete can go into their senior, fall, and obviously their summer as well.
Sure. I think a big reason for that is because the rosters sizes are getting smaller. I think guys are more picky when they're putting offers out. I think just a couple of years ago, teams would hoard 15, 20 high school commits, and then they'd get to about, May of their senior year, and they'd have to make some cuts and things like that. And you see teams doing less and less of that. And again, I think that's because of the roster sizes. I think people are being more picky. So certainly, we just committed a kid last week who's started his senior year. So you're definitely seeing more and more of that. I think the portal era definitely has that's a big cause for that too, of guys, whether they lose guys in the portal or maybe they're not getting the guys in the portal they thought they were going to get. So they go back to that high school, that high school model. Another one we just signed about a month before he started his freshman year of college. So yeah, you're certainly seeing more and more of that. And I think the roster limits in the portal are probably the main reasons.
Travis, I'm sure over the last month and a half since you've taken this opportunity, your hair's been on fire and you haven't been able to slow down much with recruiting, assembling a staff, just everything that goes into taking over a program. First of all, how do you like the roster that you guys have put together? And what does your fall look like? How will your fall be broken down? And I think that's important because I think high school kids should hear how certain programs run falls. They're not really sure how a fall program. How does your fall program look? How's your roster constructed right now? And how happy are you and the staff with what you have coming in?
Yeah, I think I feel about as good as I could about it. When I got the job and it was nobody's fault. We got here and there was not very many players. There was 0 left-handed pitchers. There were 0 middle infielders. So that was stressful. It was certainly stressful the first couple of weeks with that. If you'd have shown me this roster, a month ago, I would have been very pleased. And that's credit to our staff. We have a great young, hungry, energetic staff that they hit the ground running and worked really hard to make this happen with that. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it. From a fall standpoint, our kids report August 15th. We'll do about 4 to 5 weeks of skill work and then start. So that'll be more like individual group work. So say we have 18 hitters, we'll probably get groups of 3 to 4 hitters, and they get 45 minutes a day roughly. And obviously Kyle will have the pitcher groups as well. And then, you get 6 weeks of team practice. So it's actually a 45-day window where you can have 35 practices. We'll start that in the middle of September, and that'll run through November 1st. And now you can play outside competition, and it doesn't count against your spring schedule. We have 1 game schedule. We'll probably schedule 1 more. So we'll probably just play 2 with that, mainly just because it's a new team, a new staff, and we have a lot of stuff to kind of implement, but we will play a couple outside competitions as well.
With your background, Travis, with regard to being a hitting coach, I would love for you to share, when you're evaluating a young hitter, I'll go to a lot of events over the summer and I see every athlete is in some way, shape or form trying to elevate a ball, trying to, obviously try to go yard, but you talk a little bit about at the college level, it's more about ball strike, and putting balls in play with authority. What are some of the things that you look for in young hitters that you think, okay, they're just like 15, 20 pounds of big boy strength away from being a really productive hitter at the collegiate level?
Yeah, the main things we look for, first off, we won't bat the ball. If you're swinging and missing at a high level in high school, I don't know how well that's going to translate to this level. And 2, like you say, obviously the strength's not there, but you can really see the twitch and the bat speed. So we want guys, who have that twitch, have that bat speed, and that they have the bat to ball skill. That's the 2 main things we look for. And like you said, in a world full of social media and home runs, and there's a bunch of hitting coaches out there. I get it. But at the end of the day, like we're trying to sign kids who help us win baseball games. And, I think hitting, everything in baseball, but hitting specifically is extremely, complex when it comes to the biomechanics of the swing. And I think it's our main job is to make that extremely complex thing, and teach it in its simplest form. Because if you got 18 to 22-year-olds that are overthinking, that's not a recipe for winning. So I've never coached a really, really good hitter who's asking mechanical questions in the dugout on a game day. It just doesn't happen. So, I think that's our job is to make that hitting as simple as possible. And obviously we're going to teach, the complex things, but I think if we do it in simple form, the player can play freer and, have more success.
Walter, I'm not sure this is in regards to Jack State, but I don't know if you even know this story. My son, who obviously is very fortunate to be part of Travis's staff there and is the pitching coach, was 1 year old when a young man named R.A. Dickey was towing the rubber at the University of Tennessee, and I was his pitching coach. Well, many years later, just goes to show how old I am now. Kyle Serrano gets to now coach Eli Dickey, who is part of Jacksonville State. So you want to talk about full circle and how college baseball, is so connected. Is a young man that I was coaching, his son now is pitching at Jacksonville State, and my son is coaching him. But Travis, I want to wish you the best of luck. As you know, I've stepped away from baseball. I'm now part of show ball baseball. I see over 1,600 to 1,800 kids a summer. And I will always be pushing names because I saw firsthand the facility that you guys have. Obviously, I'm getting to know you more, and I know what kind of incredible program you're going to run there. And I'm always going to be giving names of the kids I see at what I think is one of the best showcase camps over the course of the summer. Always be pushing kids your way. But I wish you the best of luck. And my best advice for you as a former assistant coach like you to a head coach is be the best version of yourself. Don't change your personality. Your title on your door changes, but don't change your personality, because what you've done is good enough, and it'll continue to be good enough as a head coach and a leader of that program.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you. And obviously, congrats on a great coaching career, and looking forward to getting to know you better as well.
One last question here, Travis, for parents that want to know. I know you have Anthony Izzo, you have Kyle Serrano, you have a great staff. Student athlete families sees this and they hear a guy like Dave Serrano talk so glowingly about you and your staff. How are they going to reach out to you? How would you like to be contacted, and what would you like that contact to include in order for you to proceed to potentially, whether it's a camp invite or potentially even want to recruit that athlete?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. It's an email. It's not a copy and paste email. It's a personal email. Just get right to the facts of, this is my name, this is how old I am, where I'm from, this is what I do well. Here's some video. Here's my schedule if it's the summertime. Looking forward to hear from you. But like you just mentioned, the best way to get in front of us and to meet us would certainly be just to come to a baseball camp. We'll have probably 3 showcases a year. One in September, one in January, and then one in the summertime. But that's definitely the best way for me personally.
I want to let parents know I'm going to have all the contact information for Jack State, the coaches, as well as Coach Creel, and make sure that you have that access. And again, make sure when you're sending an email, as you heard Coach Creel say, make it personal. Don't do a copy and paste. That's the worst thing you can do. Well, Travis, thank you so much, and best of luck, not only, in your upcoming season, but in Conference USA for many years to come.
All right. Thank you for having me.